Oi, oi, vibes here.
I'm DJ Macca. This is Paul Louise.
Hi, my name's Robbie Edwards.
My name's MC Hurricane.
I'm DJ Reverend.
Hey, this is Markside. I'm John Edge. MC Real.
Reggie Sarah.
Stevie Wonder. Hi, this is Bob K.
I'm Les Calvert. I'm DJ City TV.
Yes, this is JFMC. You're listening to the Couture 303 podcast
With J Viper, baby.
Welcome back, everyone, to another special episode of the Couture 303 podcast. And today, my guest is one of the OGs of the rave scene, the original Detonator himself, Mr. Robbie Dee.
Yeah, how you doing, yeah?
How are we, Robbie? Okay?
Good, man. I'm good.
Good. So before we start, a couple of people I want to mention, because there was two people who were instrumental in getting this set up. One was my good friend, Steve Baker, who I know you've had some dealings with. I've known Steve for fucking many years, very good friend of mine. And also Lee Hall, who runs Back to the Dock, who actually gave me your number. So big shout out to Steve Baker and Lee Hall for hooking this up for us. So as I always do, Rob, with all my guests, we go right back to the start. So where and when were you born, mate?
Well, believe it or not, I was born in Liverpool.
Fuck off.
I fucking was, mate. Yeah, I'm a Tocky boy. Well, I was a Tocky boy for a few years until, unfortunately, I was shipped out. Born in Sefton General and that, yeah. But
my nan used to work there. Fucking hell.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's mental. Yeah, so yeah, for the first few years and that until I was about 4, I was in Tocky, in Toxteth and that, yeah, which is a shame really because I really loved to have stayed. But obviously I'm moving back to Liverpool. I'm in Kirby at the minute now, and I'm coming home.
Yeah. So what prompted the move away? Was it it work for your parents or what?
Well, the thing was at the time my mum, like, she was only young. She was like 16 and that, yeah, and she'd obviously met my dad. You know, there was a bit of a culture difference. My dad being obviously black Jamaican and that, yeah, my mum being white English and that, yeah, she ran away. And came to Liverpool under an assumed name. So on the birth certificate, I got a different woman's name on it in that, yeah. So she I mean, a lot of people back then used to run off to Gretna Green and stuff like that, but I don't think she had any intention of getting married. Yeah. But my dad and my mum lived in Toxteth for quite a while and whatnot. And obviously the relationship broke down, and my mum moved back to Kidderminster, where I spent 17 years living. You know, but there was always there must have been a bit of a scouser in me, or you know. Yeah. As young as I can remember football, Liverpool was always my number one choice. Yeah, you know.
It shows it's in your blood. You touched on something there about like the cultural differences, and obviously your mum being young. Now, obviously, I'm not mixed race, but my mum was only 17 when she got caught with me, and I know she's told me some stories of having to be shipped around the back of the house. You know, the parents were ashamed and stuff like that. You know, and I was nearly took off my mum because I was born. My mum's birthday the 2nd of May. I was born the 7th. So on a hospital thing at the end of the bed, it still said she was 17. Wow. And so I understand about stuff like that. It's mad how the world's changed, hasn't it? You know.
Yeah, it is a different time. I mean, yeah, the world's changed. It's funny you should say that because I mean, there's a lot of people that might not be aware that I'm actually kind of awake to what's going on in the world. Yeah. To some serious levels that I couldn't even begin to start talking about it. Yeah. But I also, you know, I know about all the cultural differences and the reasons behind it. It was a very different time back then, absolutely different. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we had the wind rush back then. So obviously, I'm like a British born. Well, when I wouldn't say British born because I was born in Liverpool. Liverpool ain't got nothing to do with it. You know that. Come on,
Scout's not British.
Let's get it right, lad. Let's get it right, mate. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but yeah, it was a different time. It really.
So what was it like growing up in Kidderminster then, being mixed race? I had one of my best friends growing up was mixed race, and it had started to change a little bit, but there was still that little air of, you know. You'd get people making comments on the sly type thing. It's changed a lot now. People are a lot more understanding and you know, it is what it is. But back in the 70s and 80s, it was a bit of a different world, wasn't it? So what was it like growing up in Kidderminster? Obviously,
Well,
you were with your mum, who was white, and obviously you were mixed
I
race.
was with my mum. I was with my mum for a while, and then she kind of got off. She she was only young and that. Yeah, so I went to live with my nan from like 1974, 75 up to 1980. So I was one of like only a few black or mixed race kids in the town.
Yeah.
I hate saying the word mixed race because, as I said, I had a bit of a spiritual awakening, and it was a biblical awakening. I'm not saying I'm religious or anything like that. I don't believe. I'm not Christian or any shit like that. More identified with the Israelites and that, yeah. But it does say in the Bible, right, basically that there is no such thing as mixed race. You are the seed of your father, right? So I would be whatever my dad was, which was black, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got mixed genes of my mum in there and that, yeah. But growing up in Kidderminster, it has its high points, it has its low points as well. Obviously, there was a lot of racism back then, a lot, yeah. So I wouldn't say it was sheltered. I was kind of protected from it mostly. Obviously, I had a few experiences growing up, but I had a lot of, they weren't. I'm not saying everybody's racist because they're not. Yeah, it's not. It's something that's inherently taught. It's not something you're born with. It's not.
A lot of it's going on to ignorance as well, isn't it?
Well, it's
Let's be
ignorance,
honest.
but also again, there's a biblical aspect to it as well. Yeah, which I don't really want to go into because it'll go into about.
Yeah, that's a separate podcast for another day, Rob.
The areas I am going to be touching on stuff because I talk about things from a different perspective than I did like 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
I see the world a lot differently. I know what's coming and whatnot. But getting back to back to the 70s, it was. It was interesting. There was a lot of different there was a culture shock.
Yeah.
Being brought up in a predominantly white neighborhood or area or town with very few black or brown kids in there was probably one or two in my school, in my infant school.
Yeah.
Big school, there was the same. It was the same. So in a way, we were a minority in that area, right? As opposed to being like 20, less than like 14 or 15 miles away in Birmingham, where there was a different thing. Yeah.
So what was your school life like? Were you a good kid, naughty kid? Were you creative?
Well, I was very creative. I was kind of held back a bit in, like development wise, as far as writing. My writing was horrendous. Yeah, I was right-handed, and my cousin, for some reason, decided to teach me to write left-handed. Yeah. But as I grew up, I come into my own and whatnot. I don't say I was academically clever. I was more worldly clever. I mean, I learned more out of school than I would in school. I did at one point when I was 11. I had a reading age of an adult, right? So I wasn't stupid. I wasn't thick. Yeah. Art was my forte because my mum was very artistic. In fact, as in her adult life, working life, she was a pegboard operator for Axminster Carpets, was basically designing the carpet that was going out to places like Saudi Arabia and all the rich places and whatnot. So she was very artistic. In fact, she could take a photograph or a painting and replicate that painting in perfect detail. And that kind of rubbed off on me. I was very much into my sci-fi and stuff back when I was young. But, I was into Star Trek and obviously Star Wars when that came about. So I had quite a bit of an active imagination.
Yeah,
really.
That fuels creativity, though. I think.
Yes, it does.
If you're narrow-minded and you're not interested in stuff like that, it's going to hinder your creativity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had friends and stuff, but I was very much a loner. I was very much enjoying my own time. I used to go off exploring on my own and stuff and whatnot. And I obviously, because there was obviously that I stood out like a sore like a sore thumb at a horse wedding, like, you know what I mean? It's like there's me there, So I had pretty much a happy childhood, really, to some extent. I mean, obviously there was trauma, right, with my mum, because my mum obviously walked out on me when I was 4,
Yeah.
right, and left me to live with my nan, and that was quite a traumatic experience for me. So I had obviously abandonment issues. Yeah, so I didn't realise that I had. I mean, there was, I had lots of trauma, and whatnot throughout my childhood on that score, and it kind of affected me quite kind of deeply up into my adult life. The way that I was around and the way I treat people and stuff. The way I was around my daughter. I mean, I looked after my daughter for 11 years on and off as a single dad. So you know what I mean. And I virtually vowed that I would not let anything that happened to me happen to any of my kids. I mean, I've got and whatnot, and it was a very interesting time for me. It really was. I mean, obviously, it was the 70s.
Yeah. So you're predominantly known throughout the rave scene as an MC. I know you've moved into DJ and production as well, but your first love was hip hop. So when did you start to understand that music was going to be a passion for you? Because obviously everyone is exposed to music when they're younger. What kind of music were you exposed to as a kid?
Well, as I said, like a cultural difference. So I'd hear a lot of Radio 1, Radio 2, and all that bananas, yeah. A lot of Top of the Pops, right? With my cousins, because I had 3 cousins, all female, right? So they was like the closest to me as family and whatnot. So I remember I used to watch a lot of Top of the Pops with one of my youngest cousins, Teresa, and that, yeah, and listen to the radio a lot. And so we get a whole spectrum of music, yeah. A lot of it was weird. If you look at it, a lot of it was weird. But
a lot of it was shite as well.
It was good. Yeah, I remember one instance. I was sitting in my nan's kitchen where I was living at the time in Kidderminster, and on the Birch and Coppers estate, and I remember it was a nice sunny morning. I think it was spring, and 10cc came on. I'm Not in Love.
Yeah, tune.
Right? And you hear the pads and everything in it. Yeah.
Beautiful piece of music, that, isn't it?
Beautiful, right? And I will always stick with me. I always remembered that the time I first ever heard that tune. Yeah. And even to this day, now and again I pop it on. And yeah, it was a different, the music. But so as you get older and older throughout the years, and obviously the music develops, it gets all more crazier and that, and then you get like now and again you get this electronic musical feel like Sparks. Do you remember Sparks?
Yes, This Time Ain't Big Enough for the both of us.
Right, yeah, and things like that, and then as later on, and then at some point I went back to my mum's. My nan passed away, unfortunately, 1980. It was actually on the same day as the Iranian embassy, the SAS stormed the embassy. As the SAS was storming the embassy live on TV, my nan was dying.
Wow.
Right, so I remember these things, but I remember the music around the time, right? So she'd like a lot of ABBA, things like ABBA, right? So you get a lot of listening to a lot of that, right? And it's like we all know who ABBA is. Come on, like that. But the music, it's not about them as an act. It's about the music. Right? So you hear about structures and different things and that. Yeah.
Well, disco is like the formation of the dance scene. Without the disco scene, we wouldn't have the dance music scene, and we wouldn't have the rave scene and the hardcore scene.
Absolutely. So when I went back to my mum, right, then I was exposed to a whole lot more music. So we had all the Motown, right? So we listened to all the Motown. Then we had all the disco stuff and all that. Yeah, it was like, and it was great. It was great listening to. I would listen to I'd go through all the tunes where she was at, listening to this stuff, and I remember. Because obviously with creativity, I'm very creative. As I said, we're into sci-fi and everything, yeah. And I listened for the first time Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, right? Yeah. And I'm like, wow. And obviously for things like Lord of the Rings and that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I remember listening to the 26-part audio of it, yeah. And at the same time, I'd listen to War of the Worlds, and I'll tell you what, it absolutely scared the living shit out of me. The music behind it was absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
you know. And I like topical stuff as far as like John Williams, you know what I mean? Star Wars.
Yeah.
You just couldn't you couldn't get over that.
Yeah, we've got the likes of Hans Zimmerman now and all that, and they're very popular. You can go and see them in concert now as well. The people who make the scores for the films now, it's getting recognised more as an art form as opposed to soundtracks when we were younger with the songs from the films.
Yeah.
Now people are buying the soundtracks, the actual soundtracks, because they're appreciating what that musical journey that they can take it on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Hans Zimmerman, he wouldn't even be, people like him wouldn't be there without John Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, it opens up the imagination of how they they take things and they twist it and make it better and whatnot. And
a film without music has just lost a complete dimension. I mean, the music in a film is so important for building tension and for getting the excitement going. I mean, look at the likes of the Rocky films. I go on with the Rocky films a lot. Yeah. The music in the Rocky films when they're fighting, it fucking gets you going. I mean, as well as watching it, like
Rocky 4 and all that business. Yeah. So, like when we're going down the realms of like Jean-Michel Jarre, when I heard Oxygen for the first time, thanks to my mum and that, I tell you what, the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard, and it just stuck with me. And I'm thinking, I'd love to be able to create or be part of something like that. Yeah. And then we come to Kraftwerk. Yeah, Kraftwerk, just wow. Okay, well before its time.
Yeah, definitely. Like Sparks, though. Sparks were before the time, weren't they?
Absolutely. So we come to like 1983, and I can't remember which came first, but I remember I was speaking about it the other day on Alex Energy's podcast. Actually, Malcolm McLaren came out with a tune called Buffalo Girls.
Yes.
Right, and the accompanying video was they were doing the double Dutch with the ropes and that.
Yeah.
Coming fresh out of New York and in America, and it was showing you a culture, this hip hop culture that nobody had never heard of before, really.
Yeah.
And
it's everything involved with it. It's the music, the graffiti, the DJing, the breakdancing. It's a whole scene, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, as I said, I don't know which came first, that or Break Machine. Got a #1 hit with on Top of the Pops on the top 40 and that, and that basically opened the doors, the floodgates to all the hip hop. Yeah, so I'm sitting there looking at that, thinking, you know what, I really like that. It so resonated with me. Anything, especially Buffalo Girls. I bought the tune and I never stopped playing it. It was like yeah. And then I remember Jeffrey Daniels, got on Top of the Pops, right, and he did robotics, to Shalimar.
He was the first person to do the moonwalk on telly, wasn't he?
First person to get Michael Jackson. He was the first person, and obviously Michael Jackson was a massive influence as well, right? But that's me. I could do that, yeah. So like, it was it 83? Yeah, it was the same year. I'm at school. I'm at my middle school, and we were doing an assembly, right? And I had to do two scenes. One, I was Trevor McDonut or whatever, and the other one was that I took the same song that Jeffrey Daniels done, and I dressed up as a robot, in a baller suit, and stood up in front of the whole school and did robotics for 5 minutes, right, and I became instantly famous.
Yeah,
and that was great. It was great. Yeah, so that was my first little inroad into the music business. Yeah, because I used to have fantasies and dreams that I'd stand up in front of my school and entertain them, and I'd be some kind of comedian or something like that. Yeah, some entertainer, something that I entertain, and I used to have dreams about it. Yeah. that I was going to entertain or wanted to entertain, and hip hop was the route in there because it was just like, wow, yeah. So obviously started collecting the music and that. I went up to the big school and they'd done it again in front of my school again, yeah. And also because it got quite popular, we actually went to was it Pontins? Yeah, Pontins in Great Yarmouth or whatever. Sorry about this, getting this way. There was a competition, right? Right, there was a talent competition, and I entered it as a robot, and I won,
Yes.
Yeah. But then like we used to go to the like the youth centre once a week, and they used to have like hip hop people do hip hop in there and that, yeah, just like. So it wasn't just me. The town, it caught on in the town, and I played my little part in it. Yeah, doing all body popping and whatnot. And I remember there was a guy who a DJ that run this company called Upfront, and they used to do under 18s discos in the town hall, right? And I went down there one night. I think it was about 17, 16, 17, something like that. Or fifth, I can't remember. It was about 15, and they were like, he was playing hip hop in there as well. So like they were doing all the hip hop stuff, and I used to like get on the mic and like have a go, and that, yeah. So I started then seeing and stuff, right? And
So it was a natural progression from the hip hop roots.
yeah. I always knew I wanted to be a DJ or MC. I could DJ in that at the time. My friends, I remember back in '83, my friend had a set of fucking techniques.
Fucking hell. 83?
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. These are all right. You know what I mean? And that journey kind of started from there. But it wasn't until I moved when I was 17, because I when I was like 15, 16, the last year of my school was just bollocks, really. I was not interested in the slightest, yeah. I actually went out for a whole year, virtually, with a bucket and a mop, a squidgy, and went out and cleaned cars and whatnot. And I was making about 50 quid a day.
Fucking hell.
I used to go into school and walk out. Sometimes I didn't even bother to register. I just, fuck this. I'm so not interested. Yeah, right. But I could go make money.
Yeah.
So I was a bit of an entrepreneur. At that, like, I realised that I could go out and make my own money, and that, yeah. And at one point, they threatened to expel me. They said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, do you want to do your exam?" I said, "Listen, I'll just do my exams." I did half of my exams. I was ill through half of them. I didn't show it to half of them. I mean, I got my art. Can't remember. I was not interested. I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right? I actually knew, and I mean, I was good at art and whatnot, so I got my art and that. And I went to apply to college to do art photography, and I was basically turned down. I mean, there was just a candidate or two, me and this other girl, and she got it. She's right, that's fair enough. So I went to Reddit. I moved to Redditch. What it was, as I said, I'd run away from home a couple of times, and then the one time I went into a children's home for 6 weeks until I turned 16, which was quite an interesting experience and whatnot. So then I obviously turned 16 and had to start fending for myself, all that nonsense and that, yeah. And then at one point, I don't know how it happened, I spoke to a social worker, and he told me, well, he put the idea in my head to see if I wanted to try and live with a black family for a while, yeah, just to and whatnot. I agreed. So I moved to Redditch to live with this black family, and we went. They said, "Is there anything that you'd want to do or want?" Well, I should have said, "Yeah, I want to be a DJ," and they should have got me DJ equipment. They would have paid for it as well. But what they did is they paid for a holiday to go to Jamaica for a month. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So talk about culture shock. I'm going back to the place of my origin. Yeah. Right, I know I'm MCing at the time and whatnot, so I went over there and sampled the music firsthand. MC to them over there, showed them what I could do in that and whatnot, yeah. And they was quite impressed, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I was impressed myself. You know what I mean? And I spent a month there, a whole month in Jamaica.
Wow.
I did not want to come back.
Yeah.
Seriously, I didn't want to get back on the plane. I'm like, this is where I need to be. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I even went to Bob Marley's tomb, his shrine.
Yeah.
So seen that, you know what I mean? I went my father's birth, and I sampled the music, and I was like, you know what? I really need to just like carry on with it. This is like
Yeah.
great little journey. So when I was living in Redditch, I started developing my MCing more. The hip hop it just grown. It's phenomenal. We had all the electro albums and stuff. Remember back then, and I used to play buy them religiously. And
Yeah. So what can you remember the first? So when you first started MCing, it was to hip hop. Is that correct?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you remember the first time you played to a crowd? What it felt like?
Like I said, I was in Redditch, and I played. There was a club that we had in the shopping centre. I used to go down on a Sunday night. I used to go on the mic and MC to them, and then any other clubs and that I used to go around and do that. And then I moved away from Redditch and went back to Kidderminster for a while, yeah. And then that's when I started MCing with the guy who used to do the under 18s stuff. And now and again, if I went to a different town and went to a club, different for a night out, I'd go up to the DJ and say, listen, give me 10 minutes, yeah. Find 2 hip hop tunes, or I'll give you 2 tunes. Just play them tunes and I'll MC and I'll show you what I can do, right? And they'd do it, right? And then I'd like pull somebody out of the crowd, right? And I'd ask who they were and I'll start MCing about them.
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah.
Like freestyling.
Freestyle, yeah. Right. So it was developing, and it was only in Redditch when I decided to give myself a name.
That was going to be my next question, actually.
Yeah. Well, as I said, they've got these electro albums, yeah, and I don't know if it was Electro 13 or 14 or something like that. There was an MC on there called Robbie Dee, right? And I was listening to
I'll have that.
I thought, you know what? I like that. I could identify with the tune on him and all the style of the music, the style of the MCing and whatnot. And I said, I'd rather be like Robbie B, but it'll be Robbie Dee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just at the top of the head. Yeah, I'm Robbie Dee. That's it.
And it's just stuck.
Yeah, but it was yeah, and then it's just it's you know, when you say some things and it sounds familiar and it sounds easy to say.
Yeah.
Like Strictly Drumgle as well. The name of it's caught on so well. Yeah. Just the name on its own. Like
we'll get to that in a bit. So,
but like yeah.
So you're MCing into hip hop and so what year are we talking now when you're doing these under 18s?
We're talking 86, 87.
Okay, so it's just before the kind of rave scene starting to bubble away.
Yeah.
So when did things change for you? When did you first discover rave music and stuff like that?
Well, it's back in Redditch again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pass my friend the phone because we've got to film where Bobby Firmino had his leg taken. I'll tell them all about that in a minute. But yeah. I'm sorry. Could we? I've just lost my train of thought now.
Well, I was just asking you when did things develop for you from the hip hop scene?
Well, I was in Redditch from like 86 to 88, so it was a couple of years, something like that. And oh my god, I'm watching Bobby Firmino crying on telly. Oh, never forget that. Yeah, but when I moved from Kidderminster to Redditch, I started buying like house music, like as in like Chicago house, Detroit techno, because back then in Kidderminster they were playing a lot of that stuff in the clubs as well. I was emceeing in the clubs doing that. And so I started getting a collection when you got like French Kiss and things like that, you know. And I remember stacking humanoids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I remember watching Top of the Pops again, right? And you got Yaz and the Plastic Population, you got S Express, right? You got Nana Cherry, right? You got all that coming through, yeah. And they were the breakthrough acts
Yeah.
as far as the rave scene was concerned, you know. And then time jumping a little bit towards 1988, 89 and whatnot, and 1990, you know, you got LFO, and then you got Ass, you know, and okay, I'm just going to jump back a bit, yeah. when I stayed in Kidderminster, moved back to Kidderminster, I was going through a really bad time. I was literally homeless. I was squatting in a flat. Oh God, it was about 6 months, really. Like that. It was. I was literally on my ass, yeah. And I was like, you know what? I've got to do something. I've got to like, can't stay like this. You know what I mean? I did a DJing job in Worcester. I borrowed my friend's equipment and did a DJing job for someone. That's why I met Tony Pastori and Ragapaz down in Worcester, and they were all into the hip hop and everything, and the music. And I decided I was going to move, so I moved from 12 miles down the road from Kidderminster to Worcester, and then we would do it playing in a club in Worcester on a Friday night, and it was very hip hop orientated. There was it was like all different styles of music, but there was a lot of hip hop section. That was our section, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having away, dancing away, doing whatever, yeah. Just me MCing, got on the mic, doing all that, yeah. It was when we went to Cheltenham to play at a club where we met James Perkins and Gideon Dawson. Everybody would know as Fantazia for the first time, and they heard me and they were like wowed about it, like, and they asked me if I could come down and MC at a rave, which I did. But Tony Pastori was booked me for the first ever rave that I'd actually got paid for. Was in Birmingham, the Moseley Dance Centre, which was 1990. The flip from hip hop to rave was sudden.
Yeah.
The way about it was that I was massively into my hip hop, like massive, all the old school hip hop. You know, we had tunes coming out your ear holes. We listened to all of it, and I started going to a couple of concerts. I'd seen Moni Love, seen KRS-One. I've seen quite a few at the Hummingbird in Birmingham, and the one act that I did see that I'd always it was like it'd be like somebody meeting Carl Cox for the first time and the biggest fan kind of thing, you know. It was Public Enemy.
Yeah,
and I was late getting there. Actually, I was about 20 minutes late for when it started, and I think third base was on. And I was at the back, and there was like 5,000 people there in the Hummingbird, and you could see it swaying.
Yeah.
Like, there's that many people, and he's, well, you know what? There's no fucking way I'm standing at that. So throughout the course of their performance, I managed to get from the back all the way to the front. And I was there, fucking Chuck D and Flavor Flav and all them boys on there doing their thing, right? And Chuck D, I can't remember which one he was doing. It's not. I think it was Fight the Power, yeah. And as he's at the stage doing his thing, I went like that, yeah. And he went like that, and it touched like that. Boof! Acknowledge me, yeah.
Yeah.
Put it at him, yeah. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to be a famous MC if it killed me. That moment.
Crazy.
That was the last hip hop that I ever listened to, ever.
Because the rave scene kind of came from nowhere anyway. So you're saying the transition was quite quick. It probably was because, I mean, in 1988, the rave scene was this bubble underground thing. And then by 1990, it was this fucking mass fucking hysteria. It was hitting the front page of the newspapers. illegal raves, stuff like that. So it came from nowhere really, really quickly. So I'm not surprised your transition was quick. Like,
I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, yeah, and I do a lot of research there, and how I knew how the rave scene came about. But how I know it now is not how I knew it. Yeah, as I said, it came out of nowhere. But I know that in this world, everything happens for a reason, and there are no coincidences. I'd love to believe in a coincidence, yeah, but I can no longer afford to believe any of that shit, right? I know there's a thing called the Tavistock Institute, yeah, and if people want to understand what's going on in this world, right, how things are shaped and how people are influenced, they need to look into the Tavistock Institute, especially with psychology, sociology, and all the manners of whatever they're doing to manipulate people. And I believe that the rave scene didn't come by accident. Yeah, I believe that it was shaped and it was influenced in some kind of way by the powers that be, not as a distraction, but as a distraction, but as you got to understand the rave scene has got a lot of new age influence in it.
Yeah, it's like the second coming of the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Free love and all that kind of stuff.
I believe the 60s didn't come by accident either, that they were shaped and formed and whatnot. And I'm not saying it was a bad thing, because I believe it was a good thing, really, in a way. Yeah, because only did it open the doors to a whole community of people, of like-minded people, of creative people, and but I think it was part of my awakening. Charlie, can you take the dog off from up there, please? Yeah, so there was he's gonna
The Couture 303 podcast is now officially sponsored by Dapper Turkish Barbers in Hunts Cross. You can find them on Wood End Avenue, and they do the full service there. The hair, the beard, the ears, the nose, the cutthroat, the hot towels, the lot. It's the only barbers I ever go to. Fantastic service, great lads. No need to book, just pop in and see them 7 days a week. If you want a nice sick fade like mine, you will not be disappointed. The absolute best in the area. That's Dapper Turkish Barbers, Wood End Avenue, Hunts Cross. And now back to the show.
Yeah, as I said, I've met so many people that I could consider family through the rave scene.
Yeah.
And it opened up the world to a lot of creativity. We didn't start the music, right? But we kind of led the way as far as raves were concerned, right? I mean, you got to thank the likes of Detroit techno and Chicago house opening that door. Yeah.
You know? It's all a progression. It all progresses and it all evolves, doesn't it? It's all an evolution.
It is an evolution, and it was a very quick evolution. The hip hop had a major influence as well, obviously, with the aim and break. Yeah. Without that, you wouldn't have jungle, you wouldn't have drum and bass, you wouldn't have a lot of stuff, even the techno, everything, all of it. It's all a mishmash of everything. Back then, there wasn't it wasn't all put into subgenres. You didn't have just house or just like jungle or anything or hardcore, happy hardcore. It was all one music. It was an experiment. It was a smorgasbord of some
a mishmash.
Yeah.
So your aim originally was to get on stage and entertain people, but in 1992 you went beyond the stage and you got suspended above the stage. Do you want to tell the people about what happened there?
Yeah, well, funny enough, it was my idea. I mean, the original idea wasn't really like feasible, because I mean, back then it would have been very expensive and very dangerous to use a jetpack to fly over the crowd. But I was willing, fully prepared to do that. Yeah, no, I wasn't going to fly with the Bournemouth Council, unfortunately. So the best thing was to harness up. Was to harness up and fly the crowd. So yeah, that was something that was never really tried before at a rave. And even though it has been tried since, I was the first one to do it, and I was pretty proud of it. It kind of put me in the spotlight.
It's fucking not half. So you had quite a formidable partnership with Easy Groove in the early days. How did that come about?
Well, it came about when I moved to Cheltenham, actually, from Worcester. I met Dennis for the first time. It was on the same night. It was the week after I first came down to Cheltenham to meet James Perkins and Gideon Dawson, and they asked me if I wouldn't mind coming to a rave just up the road. Mate, called Incantation, which was run by another guy in Cheltenham, and I said, yeah, okay. So I got a guy in Worcester to give me a lift down towards Evesham Way up by there. And I had to go to Cheltenham first, and we went to go and meet James and Gideon. They'd already gone. I'm late. So the only best thing to do was to go to the event. So we drove up there, and I'm on the gate for about half an hour, pleading with the woman to say, listen, I'm supposed to be in there in a minute. Yeah, right. I said, I've just come fresh. I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. All I know is I need to be in there, in that tent, on the mic. And it must have took about 20, 25 minutes. She must have felt pity on me because she went, oh, go on then. Right, told the driver to go home. So, right, this is it. So I went in there, saw James, saw Gideon, and then they say, right, get on the mic. Easy Group Dennis was on there at that particular time. And I'm not sure which MC it is. I do actually. I'm not going to mention the name. Right. I jumped on the mic. Was only on there 15 minutes. Yeah. Dennis, Easy Group turned around like that. He looked at me. Right. The MC looked at me. I could see him glaring at me. He was pissed fucked right off. Right. Yeah. Because believe you me, back then, I was on form back then, yeah, and no one had ever heard that at a rave before at all, right? And I was there doing my thing, yeah. And Dennis grabbed me like that. He said, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean? What are you doing after here? I said, I don't fucking know. I'm just here, innit? He said, you're coming with me. Right? Yeah, right. So he jumped me in the car and and we all went down the road, right? And I ended up at my first ever fucking circus walk, illegal rave event.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I'm like, fucking hell, this is amazing. To go many of these, I said, yeah, we have them all the time. Excellent, yeah. So like, that was the first time I met Dennis, and then the second time I met him, yeah, is that fortunately for me was the first time I'd done acid. All I could see was this tentacle monster. What have you got a phone number? Can I get hold of you? And I'm thinking, this fucking monster, he's going to eat me.
He looks a bit like Easy Groove.
And he's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, listen, you can't get hold of me. I'll get hold of whatever. Fair enough, yeah. Right. So like, after I come back to Earth, and I realised what had happened, yeah. Later, I went all the way down to Bristol, and I said, listen, Dennis, really sorry. That was my first. I thought you was Medusa or something. Like, yeah, I had no idea. I thought you was some kind of predator going to take me off somewhere and eat me or something, yeah. And it was like, that's when we struck up a friendship, and that, yeah. And that's like, you know what I mean? That's the beginning of my partnership, and that. We did have a bit of a falling out actually for a while, for a year or so, and that, yeah. And but we kind of made up in that, yeah. And I mean, it was a work in progress. You know what I mean? You could see the brilliance of it. Yeah. From my aspect, you got to remember there weren't just me. There was other MCs as well. You got Ribs. You know, you got Jack Horner. You got they'll all come back to me in a minute. Yeah. Right. There was a lot of MCs, good MCs that we all brought up together, all in that niche. Yeah. So Dennis didn't just have me; he had other MCs as well. A lot of three-party MCs as well, from Bristol to fucking Oxford, right? So, but yeah, we had, you know, I enjoyed my time on the mic with him at the beginning, yeah, right, because it helped me, helped him, yeah, right. You all out to each other. We were all. It was a new thing, yeah, and we suddenly were the fucking superstars of something that was brand new.
Yeah.
From I did the thing in Bournemouth, yeah, I sat in the office in Fantazia, and I think James or Gideon, or it might have been Nick Sellers, rest in peace, and Gideon, rest in peace, yeah, right. Said to me, do you know what? You're the most talked about MC in the country, possibly in the rave world. I'm like, what are you on about? I said, they will not stop talking about you. The fucking phone was ringing off the hook from promoters. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
So this is like early 90s. So is it safe to assume you were earning enough from MCing that you didn't need to do any of the jobs, any of the work?
Well, pretty much. You know, it was just like, as I said, I was pretty homeless kind of thing. I weren't like, I was going from one place to place. I'd go where the music would take me and whatnot. Yeah. And, you know, I was involved in a car accident. That kind of affected me for a while physically and whatnot. And but the rave scene did sustain me. Yeah. But, you know, it weren't just like main raves and that. We did a lot of free parties, a lot. Yeah. And we're talking not just the little ones here and there. We're talking about the main things that led up to the implementation of the Criminal Justice Act.
Yeah.
Right. You know, they started off small and then they ended up as the biggest one of 68,000 people. And I was involved in it.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry about it. Yeah. I'm not saying I was an organizer or anything like shit like that because I weren't. Yeah. There weren't no organisers. It was people that just did their thing and that. Yeah. And we just turned up. Yeah. And I was part of that. You know what I mean? It was quite an experience.
You played at all the main ones, Obsession, Dreamscape, and stuff like that. And, so you kind of progressed. You went from like the jungle side of things. You went more to the hardcore because you were MCing with Slipmatt and stuff like that for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that just a natural progression?
Well, yeah, it was. Well, the problem is that, you know, everything was going brilliant. Like the rave scene was just at its most peak, 1983 to early 94. It was fucking amazing. And then, no disrespect to the artists that made these, and I love them to bits, yeah. But when they come up with this like thing like Toy Town and whatnot, yeah, what they've done, right, is they took all the piano breaks and that, yeah, right, and they put their own little slant on it, yeah. And I was not really into it, yeah. Right, Happy Hardcore for me was like a stab in the back. Yeah, because I was into the aiming breaks, yeah, and it was getting to that point. It was looking like we had the dark era of '83, right, where you got Top Buzz and Ratty and that. You know, you're making your dark jungle techno business, and that was just fucking wow, yeah. And then it progressed on a bit, lightened up a bit, yeah, but it was still great. And then all of a sudden, it's just went into this Happy Hardcore mode, and I'm thinking, you fucking wankers, what is this? Yeah, this is not what I remembered last. It was like from March, went into April, and then from bang, went into that. And then the music changed. I'm thinking, fuck, where are we going with this? No. All right. I'm not saying it was all bad. Right? Some of it was all right. Yeah. But then it started edging towards fairground music, yeah. And it was kind of like, what the fuck? It's like almost like pantomime music now. Right. And as it progressed on and on and on, it got worse and worse. And I fucking started hating it, yeah. Right, and it weren't like nothing personal to the people who were making it, the people that went to dance to it, and the people that fucking promoted it and fucking played it. Yeah, I fucking loved them to fucking bits. I always will, right? Because I was part of the rave scene, but the music became fucking stupid, right? And I'm thinking, fucking hell, right? So then it moved over to the jungle, right? And I was there at the very beginning of the jungle, yeah, when Ibiza Records, right, got bringing out the jungle tunes, and I was there when they got on the launch night, and then they went to fucking Nottingham on the second night, when the Rosala was at the club, and then we promoted jungle, and jungle then became a big thing, yeah, right. So Paul at Ibiza Records, big up your chest, yeah, right. And then at some point, it started getting a bit boring, not as in like. There was too much. They were putting lyrics on it, yeah, right, which is fine, yeah, and it just you got MCs trying to MC over
lyrics,
right, on the jungle thing that was starting to get a little bit moody, just a little bit, yeah, and it wasn't getting. There was just something little missing, right. On the other flip side, there was some brilliant jungle. Right, don't get me wrong, it was brilliant, but there was this moody side of it that was tainting it a bit. I'm like, hang on. So I go to a lot of jungle events and that, yeah, and there was very moody in there, very moody, right? You know what I mean? If it was like Pure X or something, they had some brilliant raves, but sometimes it'd be just that little bit moody, and it'd be kind of the music kind of thing. So I was starting to like, I felt lost. I'm like, hang on, it can't be right. The happy hardcore I can't stand, and the
There's got to be
jungle
somewhere in the middle, yeah.
got to be somewhere in the middle, right? And for about a year or so, I was lost. I was like, well, I'm not really enjoying this at all. It's not where the rave scene is where I envisioned it to go. It's going a bit too diverse. The house music is a bit too pretentious at that point. Yeah, it was great in the beginning, and it went pretentious, and then you had drum and bass came, right? And I thought that's interesting, and it was new, and it was different, and it was okay. It wasn't grabbing me yet, but it was worth the attention, right? And then we got to a point where I just stopped listening to jungle for a little while, right? Drum and bass, yeah, I started listening to that. You had a lot of techno still, that was still viable. That was good. It was good in that because obviously with Dennis, the easy groove and whatnot, yeah. A lot of the happy hardcore was, I could tolerate it, and then I started to hate it, right? Like really did not like listening to it at all, right? And then all of a sudden, at one point, all the happy hardcore DJs suddenly decided overnight that they were not going to make any more happy hardcore. Bang, they started making a hard house, yeah. And that's when the hard house was really good, yeah. I'm thinking, fucking hell, why couldn't you done that sooner? Yeah, right. The hard, and then obviously that had its run, and that turned commercial because it got, when anything gets commercial, it starts turning a bit fucking pans people type thing. And then the hardcore came back, yeah, but it was a different kind of hardcore, right? And it was more tolerable. I can understand where it was coming from then, right? Because it was a progression from the one to the other. It weren't so more fucking pinky and perky. It was more, there was more atmosphere to it, yeah, and there was a purpose and a common theme to it, yeah, right. So anyone listening to this, don't think I hate happy hardcore. And I was taking the piss the other day on Facebook, and I said something that was kind of funny, but I was only taking the piss, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, I've got, you know what I mean? As I said, what I didn't like was the early happy hardcore. The direction that it went in was not the direction that, you know what I mean? I couldn't really MC to it. It was bollocks as far as I was concerned, right? The hardcore now is a lot of a different thing, yeah. And even though it's not my favourite cup of tea, I will appreciate it. In fact, I had a really good set with Vinyl Groover at Stu Allen's Memorial, yeah.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed that. I actually really enjoyed that, right? There was a lot of old school stuff in there being played.
I was there actually for that. I was there for that.
But there was, you know what I mean? Right? I really quite enjoyed it. In fact, I quite enjoyed the whole night. Yeah, it was a nice little step back into, you know what I mean? So that as I said, I can appreciate that. But when the jungle, when I started taking my DJing more seriously around about 2005 onwards and that, yeah, and my friend was just started sending me a lot of MP3 music stuff, and that's when I first had my first set of CDJs. We got a riff there, please.
So for what it's worth, with the music scene, like you were saying before, like I was never a fan of happy hardcore. No. I liked the bouncy techno, the stuff Scott Brown was making, the real thumpy energy stuff. And then I liked the way, for me personally, I know you mentioned Toy Town there, Sharky. I didn't like the happier stuff. But when Sharky changed direction and started making the freeform stuff, that resonated with me. Because it was like, I think at one point Billy Bunter was calling it transcore.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what it was like. It was like,
when I say Toy Town, it wasn't Toy Town actually. It wasn't Sharky. It was something Dougal made actually, right? And Vibes made something, and it just, those two tunes changed the whole dynamic. But the thing is, like, Vibes had made a year or so or before made Music's Wonderful.
Yeah, Play It Loud. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was a proper tune. That was right. And
Vibes and Wish Doctor.
Wish Doctor, Vibes and Wish Doctor. Yeah, and that was the kind of, that's the kind of fucking kind of jungle techno that I was into, that I impact energy kind of thing, and it was, tell you what, it was brilliant, right? So what I like with the jungle now, right, is that there's a lot of elements of old school in it, yeah. A hell of a lot.
What goes on? It's like fashion and music. What goes around comes around, doesn't it? You know, it's all an evolution. It's all a circle.
Yeah.
What was around 20, 30 years ago will come back again and again.
So, like with the DJing side of it, yeah, right. I had two great teachers, yeah, that like with Easy Groove and Ratty, right. We haven't spoke about Ratty yet, right. Two masters in their own field, but very similar in mind and mental ability and on there. Yeah. So I kind of like that's why I identified with them, because that's how I envisioned the creation of music in my mind. Yeah, from the hip hop to the break to the aim and break. On that, you know what I mean. You could sit there and you could imagine the creation of music, how it would go, right, back in say 1990 and that, and it'd be more, it'd be that advanced that when it was actually being made around about 93, 92, 93, right, you already knew that you would identify with that style of music, yeah. And I'd always identify with that, with the news jungle and whatnot. I identify with a certain style of music that's very energy. It's got energy to it, yeah. And that's how I love my jungle or my jungle techno. And the great thing is, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, especially in the last 12 months, the music has been the best that I've ever heard it, yeah. And I get so much music sent to me, yeah. Right. But I get the best, the right music, yeah. And I had, as I said, I've had two good teachers at the Easy Groove and Ratty. Yeah. And that, obviously I've got my own style, but it kind of rubs off. It's like an almost combination of the two, but it's how I've developed over the last several years, last couple of decades in that, you know. And the journey of that has been amazing. Yeah. And I've got to the point where I'm not only happy with the way that I play the music, of what I play as well. So you got two fronts that mash together so well, yeah. So that was where Strictly Drumgle was born.
So that was going to be my next question. So Strictly Drumgle for the Liverpool people is quite a new thing, but it's not new at all. It's been around for many, many years. So how did that come about, and how did it progress to where it is now?
Yeah, as I said, well, the Liverpool people are going to find out on the 2nd of September exactly what Strictly Drumgle is, because that district where Jamie Webster has his boss nights, yeah, we're going to have a Strictly Drumgle launch night at District, yeah, on the 2nd of September with the likes of the Strictly Drumgle squad, who I'll get into in a bit, yeah. Nicky Blackmarket and Conrad Subs, Daisy and Miggs, and a whole host of people. I'm sorry I'm self-shameless plugging, but I'm telling you.
Listen, this is what this podcast for, mate. What we'll do is, at the end of it, we'll put all the information on the screen, and we'll put the flyer up for it as well.
Yeah. We're going to make fucking Strictly Drumgle more famous than John Lennon's dog. Yeah? I'm telling you, yeah? Right? So don't be under no illusions, Liverpool. You know what I'm saying, yeah? So, like, Strictly Drumgle was something that I started in my mind, yeah? Not long after I started doing Detonation Boulevard parties, which I started back in 2001, in Weston-super-Mare, when I moved from Bristol. I was living in Bristol. I've lived in Bristol on and off for like 10, there was about 10 years at that point, yeah. Bristol is like the melting pot of everything, yeah, like Liverpool, but it's the Bristol version. Do you get me? Yeah. So all the jungle came out of, all the best jungle came out of Bristol. You know, we got Ronnie Size, like, you know what I mean, and things like that, and Laid Black and whatnot. So a big up to Joe Peng. He was the other MC that I was trying to think of. And while I'm at it, I'm going to give a massive big up to MC Dynamite, yeah, for giving me the massive shout out, right, on Gardner's remix tune of the tune, yeah.
That's what you sent me the other day.
Right, and I wouldn't, like, I tell you what, I'd love to do a tune with Gardner for real, yeah. So Bristol's like was a major melting pot. I'm not going back and forth. I know we're talking about Strictly Drumgle, but we're getting there, yeah. Right? When I moved from when I started doing Detonation Boulevard parties and started DJing properly again, and I moved to a place called Torquay, Yeah. That's where one of my daughters lives. Well, yeah, and got on the internet. It was around about the time that I won 2 awards for best old.
2006.
Yeah,
Best old school MC.
that's right. With Epidemic, yeah, it's a big up grant and that, yeah. And then I won HTID whole best old school MC on the same. It was in the same month. Mental, yeah. So, you know
Been
what I mean?
MCing for 20 years and then get 2 awards in the same fucking month.
Yeah, it's like getting a bus, isn't it? Yeah. I got that, and then my mate Keaty, who I did the first pay Detonation Boulevard event in Peru. He turned around to me and said, "You need to get on the internet." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "They're waiting for you." I went, "Who?" I said, "Go and find out." I said, "All right then." So bring up BT. Got on the internet and that, yeah, and I got on this website called Don't Stay In.
Yeah,
I turned up, I became an instant rock star and Don't Stay In. And me being me, yeah, I'll fucking type any old shit. That'd get normal people into trouble, because me being me, I could get away with it, yeah. So then I started going on the range. I went on a thing called Planet D&B for a while, and then progressed from there. Got on Unite Radio for quite a while. So I was on there for a few years, about 5 years, and then I went on. What did I go on? Was it not Midlands D&B? What was it called? Oh God, it was a big fucking drum and bass station that I was on for a while. And then, like, I started cutting my teeth on the radio and that, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I started doing the podcasts and that, and I started calling them Strictly Drumgle and that, yeah. They had a little format to start with, and then I hooked up with a guy called Pac-Man, who's part of the Strictly Drumgle squad, and we started doing podcasts and whatnot, yeah, and live sets and that. And I think it was like number 2 or 3, went viral. Yeah, we suddenly got 40,000 views on it. I'm like, yeah, this is good. And that, so at some point we parted our ways for a little bit. I carried on doing the podcast, Strictly Drumgle podcast, and I stopped for a while. I had a bit of a traumatic experience for a while, so I basically suffered from anxiety and depression for a number of years, and I kind of like went into the background a bit. I mean, obviously I was doing little bits here and there, but mainly I was spent myself to myself. So I stopped doing music for about 4 years, right? And then I suddenly decided that I wanted to do a bit of music. So my friend Duffin, he had his controller, and I asked him if I could come up now and again and do a podcast and that, yeah. So I'd come up for a couple of hours and do one, go home, go on the phone and that, whatnot, and do what I was doing, and start creating Strictly Drumgle properly. And that's when I started doing the full range Drumgle.
Yeah,
I was getting a lot of drum and bass. I was getting a lot of music sent to me by Cygnus and that, yeah. In fact, I remember when they asked me at the Milton Keynes, the Sanctuary, if I could go on a mailing list. It was like they just started, and they were sending me tons of fucking got to the point where I weren't even opening the fucking emails for 8 months, yeah. And then one day I turned around and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for them. And I went for them. I opened my Dropbox, got my Dropbox set up, and I opened, fuck me, there were so many fucking tunes. I thought, fuck me, there's some bangers in here. You know what I mean? I thought, yeah, I got some good material there. And while I was at it, my friend started sending me music again. When my friend was sending me, he was sending me like 5 gigabytes of music a fucking day through
Jesus Christ,
through AIM. Right? So I was getting like, I got fucking like nearly a terabyte worth of music. I've still got the hard drive, but the music's still on it, yeah. For fuck's sake, I was getting so much music, it was unreal, yeah. But then I was obviously formulating what I was doing and that, yeah. And then I went through this traumatic experience, yeah. And as I said, I ended up having to sell all my equipment and that, yeah. So I didn't have nothing for a while. It was just fine by me, right? And then I had another laptop built, I had another MacBook built, and not long after that, I got approached to ask if I'd go on KL Radio. And I said, well, I could. I've just got a laptop. The only thing is I've got nothing here. I sacrilegiously sold my fucking Technics, right? I sold my me CDJ, right? Me mixing, everything. I said, I've got all my vinyl there. I've got all fucking music there. I've got nothing to play it on. I said, you're going to have to send me a controller. I said, so they sent me a new Mark thing, yeah? I was like, yeah, that's the one I want. I don't want nothing fancy. Just give me that. Right, and I want Virtual DJ Pro, right? They said, oh, well, we got a fucking, we got a thing for it. We got the code. So fine, I've that. So I started doing my radio show. So I started doing the Strictly Drumgle again, right?
So where are you living now?
Well, technically, I still live in Torquay, but I'm moving to Liverpool.
No, I mean at this point when you're starting this radio show, where were you living then?
I was in Torquay.
Okay, yeah.
Torquay. Right, so I said to my guy again, start sending me some music, right? And he started sending me I said, just send me jungle, right? Send me jungle. I want drum and bass, yeah, but I want predominantly jungle, yeah, right? So he started sending me again, and I'm listening to something, fucking hell, right? Ooh, I'm right. I like this. This has proper got fire to it, yeah. It's got structure to it. It's got depth. It's got dimension. I like this, yeah. And the more he kept sending me, the more I'm going, oh my god. And then I got sent some stuff by Baby Kane. He sent me all the label stuff, right? And there was a guy on there called X-Base. I was listening to the tunes, and I was listening to it, and I'm thinking, fuck me, this sounds like Cut D. Now, Cut D, better known as a coal miner, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, was one of the unsung heroes of the jungle scene. Yeah? His music was next level, right? It was the kind of jungle that makes sick people get out of bed.
Yeah.
Serious, next level. I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of jungle I like. Proper got depth to it, yeah, right. And I was listening to this music, and I'm thinking, this sounds like Cut D. So I did my podcast. I can't remember if it was 52 or something like that, or 57, one of those two. And I said on the podcast, it's going to be relentless, yeah. And the way that I mix, the way that I construct, the way that I play, that I construct mix chains, is the way that Easy Groove or Ratty would do, or the proper West Country DJs would do back in the day, and that, yeah. And I just did what I did with it, yeah. And the next thing, I get a Facebook message from X-Base message saying, Robbie, I've never heard my tunes ever played like that before. I said, you know, right? Yeah, I'm the best DJ in the world, but I like to say that I'm unique in the way that I play my sets, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we started talking and that, yeah. And I said, you know what? You sound just like Cut D. It's frightening. He turned around and said, Cut D was my mentor.
Wow.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. So what can people look to expect then? Is it September the 2nd in District?
September the 2nd, yeah, in Club
Okay.
District. Yeah.
I'll put when you send me the flyer, I'll put the flyer up on the screen for this podcast. But what can people expect from when they come and see that show then?
Nick, oh, what did I do that for? With me, it was there. Listen, at the end of the day, you're going to get a multi-dimensional journey into jungle and drum and bass mashup in a way, not in a chaotic way, but in a structured way that'll take you on journeys. Yeah, X-Base is part of the Strictly Drumgle squad. So, as we got here, look, share the card. Yeah, look, it's a bit wet, but you got Strictly Drumgle. It's back to front here.
No, it's okay on my screen. You're all right.
Is it right? So we've got DJ XL here. I'll tell you a story about it in a minute. They're all good, man. They're all good stories. Yeah, it's all strictly Drumgle related. There's no tickling involved in that. With Bobby Firmino, we won't go there yet. I'll let you do that. Yeah. We've got DJ High Top or High Top TV. We got Grey Matter, very good producer in Southampton, and obviously we've got X Space. We've got a couple of great M's. We've got Shotty 4HF, who I've done a tune I'm about to release, a very controversial tune as well, like the New World Order. We've got Pac-Man, obviously. And we've got a very, very talented old school MC called Scorpio MC Scorpio. He's fucking brilliant shit.
Yeah, I remember DJ Scorpio, but it's not him, is he?
I've never seen him get on the mic, yeah.
So, what does it pay on the door? Tickets?
We're doing tickets. We will have a pay on the door, but yeah, we will be doing that. Yeah. Scorpio and Pac-Man won't be with us, but we've got some great MCs. We've got MC SAS or SAS, as we know. Yeah. We've got Nicky Talent. We've got MC Energy, of course. We've got Wizzy G.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what? So have you moved to Liverpool, or you're going to move to Liverpool? You're in Liverpool right now, aren't you?
I'm in the process of doing that. Yeah. So what they're going to expect is they're going to get a journey into drum and bass in jungle that is not quite like what they've heard before. Right, it's going to be something quite different that they would expect. In fact, the only way to really understand it is actually to go into my YouTube channel, which is the original Detonator Robbie Dee, Strictly Drumgle. That's Strictly Drumg.
I'll put that across the bottom for all the people.
Right. We've got obviously we've got the playlist. We've got two playlists. We've got obviously XL on there. We've got High Top. We've got Grey Matter. We're yet to get X Bass on there. He'll be on there soon at some point. Yeah. We've got the Strictly Drumgle squad together, the launch night on there as well. And we've got various podcasts where I've actually back to back with XL.
Fantastic.
A good one that we did last week on higher levels.
Fantastic. Right.
Higher level, different level, sorry. Oh God, I'm going to get done in for that. Yeah, DJ High Level in Katie. Yeah, different levels. Absolutely brilliant show. In fact, we're probably going to be doing it tonight, actually.
Yeah.
So that's what Liverpool is got to expect, or we're going to expect the unexpected. It's not going to be a night that it's not the run of the mill, put it that way.
Yeah. What's the capacity in district, you know?
Just about 400 in there.
Yeah, fantastic. So what I'll do is, like I say, when I edit this together, I'll put the flyer up and all the information will be on the screen as well. So we're going to finish off now, Robbie, with some quick fire questions, some light-hearted quick fire questions. Right. So Robbie D, I will take your first answer and your first answer only.
Yeah.
How do you like your steak cooked?
I like it medium well.
What's the most expensive luxury you ever treated yourself to?
£1,000 laptop.
The A-Team or the Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, it's got to be the A-Team, isn't it?
Horror movies or comedy movies?
Comedy.
Do you remember where you were on the turn of the millennium?
Yes.
Do you want to share that with us?
I was working in B&Q, dismantling the fucking shop, watching the
watching the fireworks come off outside.
Fireworks and watching the what to call it, the eclipse.
Yeah. What annoys you?
What annoys me? Annoying fucking people. What annoys me is bullshit, disrespect, all that kind of bananas. Yeah, just people that are just dishonest.
Do you prefer summer or winter?
Summer, obviously, yeah.
Tiz was or Top of the Pops?
Tiz was.
If you had a time machine, what day would you go back to?
I'd go back to Saturday where that's in from Bobby. I'm going to say
Fantazia or Dreamscape?
Oh, it's got to be Fantazia, but Dreamscape has got a special place in my heart.
What is this? So what? Yeah, this is the video.
Yeah, Bobby Firmino getting tickled. Me mate leans over, it's great. Right.
Just guards go to jump on him.
Here we go. Oh my God, it's coming.
There you go.
Look.
There he is.
Yeah, go. Sorry, go on.
Go on, mate. On chips, gravy or curry?
Oh, it's got to be gravy, isn't it?
What scares you?
What scares me? People's ignorance again.
Gremlins or Ghostbusters?
Got to be Ghostbusters, isn't it?
What's one thing you'd rid from the world?
The evil in this world, the true evil, and people's arrogance and ignorance to evil.
Hip hop or jungle?
It's got,
Got you there, Annie?
you got me, ain't you? Jip hop.
Jip hop.
Who played the best version of the Joker?
Who plays the best version? That's a good one. That is. 'Cause there's a couple of candidates here. Obviously, Heath Ledger, right, played the iconic version of it, but the new version, the one that the Batman, the Batman version, the new one. Yeah, if you've seen him, he's absolutely, well, he's unnerving.
Yeah.
He's going to be something else.
Yeah. What's your worst habit?
Worst habit. Going in interviews.
Alive or dead? Who would you go and watch in concert?
Alive. Well, I say Michael Jackson, but I don't think he's dead. So
He counts. They still count. Spitting image or the young ones?
Oh, it's got to be young ones, isn't it?
And a final question: what's the best podcast you've ever been on?
Oh, it's got to be this one so far.
Robbie, it's been fantastic, mate. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your stories. Anything else you want to plug or mention before you go?
Yeah, well, really, just Strictly Drumgle, really. Yeah, people, listen. Can you go on the YouTube channel and give it a subscribe? Yeah, right. Start at the top, work your way down. There's 124. We've got a new podcast out today. Yeah, which is pretty good. It's nearly 4 hours long, so they're not. Some of them are not short podcasts. Yeah, some of them are quite long. But as I said, you've got DJ XL on there, right? He's my main boy. I was going to tell you. Yeah, I just want to tell you before I go the little story. Yeah, is I turned up, right, 8 months ago. It is. Yeah, he hadn't been DJing for a while, right? He's been doing his own thing. Yeah, right. He's a hardcore DJ, a hardcore DJ. Yeah. Right, and I sat him down and I said, listen, this is what I do, right? This is what I want to do. Yeah, this is the plans I've got afoot, yeah, and this is the music that I'm going to provide, yeah. So we sat down, right? 3 days he listened to it, yeah. In 3 days, he turned around and went, what the fuck is this? Yeah, I've never heard nothing like this before. I said, exactly. So he started listening to more. Within 3 weeks, I converted him into a drumgle DJ, drumgle and drum and bass, yeah. Absolutely bona fide, yeah. Told Nicky Blackmarket in the car when we was going into the city. Yeah, I told him what happened. He turned around to me with Charlie XL listening, right? He said, you know what, Robbie? That's worth its weight in gold. If you can do that to a lifelong hardcore DJ and turn him into a jungle DJ, that is worth its weight in gold.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Robbie, thank you very much. And if anyone wants the information, it'll be all along the bottom of the screen for the upcoming Strictly Drumgle on the 2nd of September in District Liverpool. Thanks everyone for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.